Learn English online at Best Training School.
We made this video for beginner and intermediate students.
As usual, we'll explain you the form and the use of all past tenses in an easy way, using sample examples.
At the end, you'll find an exercise with answers and a clear explanation for each answer.
Let's get going and happy studying!
How do we form the simple past?
The structure of the simple past in affirmative form is subject plus basic form of the verb plus d or ed for regular verbs. For irregular verbs, we pick them from the second column of the list.
I worked yesterday. You worked in the mud. He, she, it danced at the party. We asked for a taxi. You watched a famous video. They smoked outside the office.
Verbs ending in y after a consonant become ied.
Last night, he cried several times. She applied for a new position. He replied all the emails. She falsified her date of birth.
Subject plus the second column from the list for irregular verbs.
I bought a new car. You drove very madly. He, she, it caught a cold. We felt happy to hear the news. You understood the last lesson. They wrote a complaint.
The structure of the simple past in interrogative form is helped verb did plus subject plus basic form of the verb.
Did I work Saturday? Did you learn English at school? Did he drive to work this morning? Did she live in Paris? Did it rain last week? Did we clean the pool yesterday? Did you usually watch TV when you were a child? Did they enjoy the lesson?
We use this form with every verb except to be. The structure is was, were, plus subject, plus an adjective, a noun, etc.
Was I late this morning? No, I was on time. Were you at the mall? Was he a teacher before he retired? Was she a nurse before she got married? Was it your car trunk? Were we at that party? I didn't remember. Were you happy with your family? Were they hungry before lunch?
The structure of the simple past in negative form is subject plus helping verb did plus note plus basic form of the verb.
I didn't work on Saturdays. You didn't speak English when you lived in Spain. He didn't get up early. She didn't leave for Paris. It didn't rain last night. We're sorry, we didn't clean the pool. You didn't smoke during the party. They didn't play the match.
We use this form with every verb except to be. The structure is subject plus was, were, plus note, plus an adjective, a noun, etc.
I wasn't late that morning. You weren't present at the meeting. He wasn't a serious teacher. She wasn't married to him. It wasn't clean when I saw it. We were not satisfied for the job. You weren't sad to hear the bad news. They weren't in a hurry. How do we use the simple past?
We use the simple past to talk about a definite past action.
Last week, I took 3 lessons and I worked hard.
We use the simple past to talk about successive past actions.
This morning, I got up early, I took a shower, I made a coffee, then I started my work.
We use the simple past to talk about a past period.
I lived in Paris 5 years ago. I lived there just for 6 months. How do we form the past continuous?
The structure of the past continuous in affirmative form is subject plus helped verb was, were, plus present participle of the verb. We conjugate the helped verb be in simple past, and we add ing to the basic form of any verb.
I was learning English. You were watching a movie. He was running in the park. She was playing tennis. It was raining. We were baking a cake. You were working hard. They were doing their homework.
The structure of the past continuous in interrogative form is helped verb was, were, plus subject, plus present participle of the verb. We have just to inverse the subject with the helped verb be.
Was I dreaming? Were you sleeping? Was he jogging around the park? Was she listening to music? Was it raining? Were we arguing? Were you working seriously? Were they doing their homework?
The structure of the past continuous in negative form is subject plus helped verb was, were, plus not, plus present participle of the verb. The same form as the affirmative, we have just to add not.
I wasn't dreaming. You weren't reading a book. He wasn't jogging around the park. She wasn't listening to music. It wasn't raining. We were not fighting. You were not working together. They weren't doing their homework. How do we use the past continuous?
We use the past continuous to talk about a temporary progressive action that was in progress around a certain time before now.
When I came back, everybody was watching the match.
We use the past continuous to talk about 2 parallel progressive simultaneous actions.
While they were watching the match, I was doing my homework.
We also use the past continuous to talk about a past action in progress when an unexpected event occurred.
At the time they were watching the match, the light came off. How do we form the past perfect?
The structure of the past perfect in positive form is subject plus helped verb had plus past participle of the verb. We conjugate the helped verb have in simple past. Then we add the past participle of any verb. For regular verbs, we add ed to the basic form. For irregular verbs, we pick them from the third column of the list.
I had established this school before 2009. You had paid before receiving your goods. He had switched off the light, then left. She had sent several emails before leaving her office. It had rained before 8 a.m. We had studied English before moving to the States. You had got engaged before you graduated. They stayed up all night because they had received bad news.
The structure of the past perfect in interrogative form is helped verb had plus subject plus past participle of the verb. We have just to inverse the subject with the helped verb had.
Had I paid the rent before the deadline? Had you sent all the emails before leaving? Had he really checked the bills on time? Had she cleaned the room before the client arrived? Had it rained just before you covered the roof? Had we been gentle with our guests? Had you sold your old house? Had they taken precaution as advised by the officer?
The structure of the past perfect in negative form is subject plus helped verb had plus not plus past participle of the verb. The same form as the affirmative, we have just to add not.
I hadn't driven a big car before then. You hadn't checked your diary. You hadn't ever gone to Japan. She hadn't had time to make clear her presentation. You were lucky it hadn't rained. We hadn't been gentle with our guests. You hadn't worked seriously. There are some mistakes. They hadn't taken measure before getting engaged. How do we use the past perfect?
We use the past perfect to emphasize an accomplished past event happened before another event or up to a certain time in the past.
We were in time. When we arrived at the station, the bus hadn't left yet. The maid had cleaned all rooms, then she left. She had checked the emails just before the meeting started. How do we form the past perfect continuous?
The structure of the past perfect continuous in affirmative form is subject plus helped verb had plus been plus present participle of the verb. We conjugate the helped verb have in simple present, followed by been, the past participle of be. Then we add ing to the basic form of any verb.
I had been teaching English all the last week. Finally, you get up. You had been sleeping all the morning. He had been waiting for more than an hour. She had been shopping in the mall for 3 hours. It had been raining during the night. We had been recording videos that weekend. You feel tired. You had been studying all the night. They had been waiting and you didn't call them.
The structure of the past perfect continuous in interrogative form is helped verb had plus subject plus been plus present participle of the verb. We have just to inverse the subject with the helped verb have.
Had I been doing something? Had you been waiting for a long time? Had he really been jogging around the park? Had she been recording new videos? Had it been raining all the night? Had we been taking a sunbath all day? I can't believe. Had you been swimming? I saw you yesterday around the pool. Had they been getting lost for a long time?
The structure of the past perfect continuous in negative form is subject plus helped verb had plus not plus been plus present participle of the verb. The same form as the affirmative, but just to add not.
I hadn't been lying when I told you about my childhood. You hadn't been sleeping when I came back home. He hadn't been jogging, he was with his friends. She hadn't been shopping, she was at her office. It hadn't been raining all the night, just a little rain. We hadn't been chatting, we were revising for our exams. You hadn't been jogging, you're not sweating. They hadn't been studying hard, that's why they failed. How do we use the past perfect continuous?
We use the past perfect continuous to emphasize the length of a progressive action over a past period. I mean that the action started in the past, progressed and finished in the past.
I'm so sorry for our appointment yesterday. It was out of my head. I'm curious to know how long had you been waiting? I had been waiting for more than an hour. I was anxious. Then I left. Exercise. You have at your disposal 15 seconds to choose the right answer. Then the answer will appear, followed by a short explanation.